What's good, Relocation Football League fans? It's your boy Smitty back here with the official sliders of the RFL. I know you guys been waiting for this a long time. The main reason why it hasn't been released is simply because, I had to make sure I had the best sliders out there for you guys and was testing them throughout the season and made sure I had the right sliders before going to the playoffs. The playoffs is here, and I feel that the sliders that I have are the absolute best that Madden 19 can offer here at the end of the year as we move towards Madden 20. So for you guys still on Madden 19 in need of some CPU sliders, I think these are going to be the sliders that are going to really give you the best results and the most realistic gameplay out of any of the sliders out there. And I know there's a lot of people who always can't wait for the RFL to release some sliders, but guess what? We're going to get it today. And so to start off, in the main menu, just don't even touch anything. Make sure everything is at default, okay? So you don't have to change anything in the menu and you start up the game. What you want to do is go into your franchise. I'm in my franchise right now. This is for the NFC, for the RFL. And let's get started with the league settings. So we go into the league settings, and these are what I got my settings to here. So I got it on All Pro. On All Pro, they still make a little bit of mistakes, but they play a lot more better than when we had it on Pro. We had it on Pro, a lot of too high of scoring games and everything, and just weird plays was happening. There's still going to be a little bit of weird plays. We already know Madden 19 is probably like one of the worst simulation type of games this year for Madden. But All Pro kind of limits that a lot more, and it makes the games more like, better plays and not too much idiotic things going on with the players. The quarterback, you're always going to have some problems with that. But in terms of everything else playing, like trying to juke moves, you get to see the players utilize their juke moves more and try to actually make defenders miss instead of just running into the player most of the time and not kicking field goals that's like 60 yards deep, and you get that on All Pro. So I think All Pro is the best skill level to have it on. Next, of course, leave your game speed on normal. You don't want to put it on fast or slow, because if you put it on fast, they're just going to be moving too fast. It's going to be the hardest way to adjust sliders to, and you're going to get a lot of weird animations and a lot of weird things that are just going to happen because of that game speed. And the same deal with slow. Things are just going to be moving too slow and just look really weird on the field. So you want to leave it at normal. After you do that, you put the game on simulation style. And the reason you want to do that, arcade, you already know it's going to be too many big plays, too many weird plays happening. If you want to have true simulation gameplay, you want to make sure that it's as simulation as close as possible. I think with simulation actually being set there instead of competitive, which you don't want to use competitive because it's pretty much a user-based style of gameplay. Simulation is the way to go there. Then, of course, you can have, I believe the rest of the settings is all up to you on how you want to do everything here. Just going through it. I got my injuries and pre-existing. Yeah, depending on what you want. But if you want realistic time length, now this is going to have some delay of games, and the reason why is because there's some motion plays that take a little bit long. You can probably add one more second to this. It'll be 14 seconds, and you probably won't get any delay of games. But if you do that, it'll really lengthen your game still a little bit longer. And I think that with that 13 seconds, almost all the plays can be ran. And there are some plays, even though they get a delay of game, that can actually still be ran. It's all up to the quarterback snapping the ball fast enough. So this is what I feel is the best time to have your minimum play clock at. And of course, we run full real football time here, 15 minutes in the RFL, and with that time it'll really reduce and make the game go at a good pace. And usually your game will take around an hour and 30 minutes, and you'll get the most realistic results, the realistic amount of plays in the game and everything else. So that's where you want to have your time at for your clock management. But I think the rest of this is just all up to you what you want to do with this. So once you do that, then we move into the sliders. We're moving to the sliders, the team settings. You do what you want to do. XP, you choose where you want to go. I think the best place to find XP sliders is through Operation Sports. As always, they always have some pretty good XP sliders. I don't work on those personally. I just get what I can get off of there. And now to the sliders officially here. So these are the sliders, and I'll be going into detail for each one. We got the same exact, as always, sliders for both the player and the CPU skill. And what we got it at is we got the QB accuracy at default at 50. The reason we got it at 50 is because if you do it too low, if you start going down, the quarterback starts missing way too many passes and throwing more interceptions. And so the best place to have this quarterback accuracy at for your simulation quarterback is at 50 at default. And don't think they're going to be completing everything, because even at 50 with the rest of these sliders, and sometimes even if it was at default, the quarterback still miss passes if their accuracy isn't all that great. So the QB accuracy really isn't that bad this year. Leave that at the 50, and you should be good there. Now this is where a problem comes, because I mean, you can have it higher up, but I mean, if you really wanted to have it like real football simulation, quarterbacks typically get like 3 seconds in the pocket, and 4 if you got a really good offensive line. And this kind of simulates that, but at the same time it can vary. So this is a great spot that I feel that you can have the pass blocking at, is at 35, because your quarterback's really going to have to find ways to get that ball out of his hands. If you've been looking at the RFL this season, you know, these past 4 weeks since I came up with these particular sliders, the quarterbacks have been getting pressure like real quarterbacks. I mean, it really does not take that much time at all for a D lineman to crash through to get to your quarterback in real life. And quarterbacks really don't have that much time in the pocket. With this at 35, I even put it as low as 30 sometimes, so you can go and check out and find your little sweet spot in the 30s. But 35 is the place that I felt was good, and I matched it up, of course, with run blocking, because run blocking still is a little bit OP this year. We had a lot of 1,000-yard rushers again this season, trying to figure out the best way to minimize the run game, to have it where guys aren't all rushing over 1,000 yards. It's really hard to kind of do that in these past couple of Maddens. But I feel that having both of these at the same number actually balances out both of the blockings for both of those areas. Because if you were to have the pass blocking too low, it seems like the pass blocking is like non-existent at all, and the run blocking is just a lot better. And if you vice versa was to do the other way, have the run blocking too low and boost and keep the pass blocking where it is, then the run blocking will be not as good. And I think it's meant to have these two blocking things be together. So we got them both at 35. Wide receiver catching, got that at 50, because I feel that the catches that the receivers make and drop are pretty solid in the RFL and in the simulations stats that we got here. Fumbles, I put that at 45, because at 50 you'll see too much, and you still see a good amount of fumbles off of this 45 number here. So it's a really nice balance for this. So don't think you won't see any fumbles, but you'll see some, especially off of big hits, and that's what you want to see. You want to see those hits that you know for a fact that if you fumble, okay, that makes sense. He took a big hit, he juked into it, and you know, I think this is the perfect slider to have for that. Pass defensive reaction time, got that at default, because I feel like once you start messing with that, the coverage is either going to be too good or too bad if you put it up or down. And so default is a place where you want to have this at. Leave that alone. Interceptions, you want to have this really low, because even at 28 and 29 that I've boosted this up to, it seems like interceptions galore just start happening. So at 27, I think is the ultimate sweet spot for the interceptions, because at that point you'll start seeing where, you know, if a ball is thrown straight to a defender, he will most likely come up with that interception, but he'll still drop it a decent amount of time, so that way you don't have a large amount of interceptions in a single game. You still can have a game where, you know, your quarterback throws multiple interceptions, but at least it'll be realistic, not just, you know, guys just making crazy plays all over the place. And so at 27, I think that's the real sweet spot for the interceptions. And so I think you guys should leave it right there. Pass coverage, got that at default as well, with the pass defense reaction time at 50. I think leaving these both alone is going to balance out and make it a realistic battle between the cornerback and the receiver. And yeah, it's really going to depend on the sliders at that point, or not the sliders. It's going to depend on the attributes of the players, I think, to get that separation. If you got a guy at cornerback with good speed and good coverage skills, he's going to be able to close faster with these at default. And, you know, if the guy isn't that good at it, you know, then he's going to get beat, and that's what should happen. And I don't feel that these need to be touched to make those players better or to make other players worse. So I think at default, this is the perfect spot to have it at. And as you can see, the tackling, I put that up to 55. And the reason I did that is because with these sliders and on default and anything in general, it seems like the tackling plays a big role in how the game goes. Because if the tackling, you still got opportunities where you got guys making people miss, which is great. You want guys to make people miss, but in real life, you got guys, hitting juke moves and everything. You look at the NFL, they can make somebody miss, but there's always somebody there that is most likely going to be there to make that tackle. You can still have those breakaway plays where your guy jukes out the whole team or something and still score a touchdown. We've seen that in the RFL, but that rarely happens, and that's what separates pro football from anything like college or high school. You see more tackles being made, and most of the time that first guy is the main guy that usually brings the ball carrier down. And even if he doesn't, you still got other defensive players in pursuit that will most likely close that gap. That is the difference between a pro league and any other league, is how fast the players get to the ball carrier after the ball is in his hands. And if you can look at NFL or any pro league, the space closes up really fast, and tackling, that helps with the pursuit, that helps with them bringing the player down. It makes it harder for the defender for a ball carrier to make the defender miss. And so that's where it makes those players who are actually good at juking and who are actually good at breaking tackles shine, because they will actually be able to do it. If you got somebody with like 65 juke move or 50 juke move, he's not going to make nobody miss, and he definitely won't make nobody miss with tackling at 55. So this is really what makes those players stand out and separates the players who can make those great plays after the catch compared to those who can't, and also makes realistic time in terms of how the tackle is made, and also how the battle that it takes for the offense to try to move down the field on the defense. So 55 is the best spot to have this tackling at. So yeah, that's going to do it. My same reasoning for the player skills, of course, same for the CPU skills here. I've got the special teams at default. Didn't feel like anything here needed to be changed. Thought everything was good there. Injuries, I got that at 10 because you still see a good amount of injuries at 10. You raise this any higher, and you start seeing a lot of injuries and a lot of guys going away for a long period of time. Then also, I think this is the best spot because this is the same spot that it is usually in your main menu, and I think that's the most realistic point that you want to put your injuries at, because it's just the most realistic outcome for guys getting injured. Now, I got the fatigue and the threshold at 50. I realized I try to move up the threshold. One thing about the threshold for guys who try to make their own simulation, you move the threshold up, it makes it more of a battle for the offense to move down the field, because then with the speed, they're not going to be able to separate too much away from the defender unless they got a good amount of momentum on their side and they got the faster speed on the attributes. And so that's where I had it. I used to have it at 85, and it was working at one point, but then it just made it too difficult, and I realized it was just a little bit too difficult for guys to move down the field and separate and show a difference between the players who have speed and who don't. And so what I did is I put it back to default just to try it out and see how everything went. And once I came up with the sliders that I came up with up here to balance it out, then 50 made sense. Players started moving the way that they should. Plays were being made the way that they should, and yeah, that's how it went right there. I think this is the best spot to have both the fatigue and the threshold. I had the fatigue up a little more so they could get tired faster, but that actually makes it where most of these sliders up here are kind of to help the defense, and that's the biggest problem. It helps out the defense a little bit some, so that way the offense isn't just always just putting up a lot of points offensively. And with the fatigue at 50, it makes them more energized, keeps more of the players that should be in, and gives them a higher chance of being able to score touchdowns. So even though it'll give them a higher chance of scoring touchdowns, they probably won't be able to score that many, up to the point where they're putting up like 30-40 points a game, which is unrealistic unless you got a top offense, and because of the sliders being in the defense's favor a little bit. So I think that's the best spot to have both of these ratings at. And I'm moving on to the penalties. Now, I made these like way back since the start of the season, and these haven't let me down. I moved them around a little bit, but you could just copy these. The only reason, my explanation for all of these being where they're at is because the realistic amount of calls have been made with these sliders at these areas that I have them at. So you got the offsides at 55, false start at 30. Default are just way too many. You know, false start is probably one of the most problematic sliders or penalties in Madden. Then you got holding, a little bit of holding. Holding had to get up there a little bit because you don't really see that call too much at default. At defensive, we had defensive holding at 70, and that's a pretty good spot right there. You had to bring down face mask a bit because you see this a little bit still, even at 40, but you typically see it when it's like towards the end of the game, fourth quarter or something like that, when guys are tired, and that's really the times that you do see a lack of technique of tackling in a real game is when somebody will grab a face mask, that penalty will be called. Still see it a little bit more, but you can adjust this to where you would like it probably lower, but at 40, I think it was okay. Defensive pass interference, got that at 99, the highest you could get it. Would put it to 100 if they had it, because you rarely see this play in, you look at NFL today or any pro league today. Pass interference is pretty relevant, and it's seen a lot more than people think, because it's hard to cover on that deep ball when you're trying to stop a receiver from getting the football and you can't locate the ball, and you're trying to keep up with where he is and where the ball's at. Usually you see a lot of collision, you see a lot of pass interference, especially if a player is better than the defender and he knows that, oh, he just killed me on this route, but I can grab him and pull him in and try to get away with it. Defensive pass interference, even at 99, still isn't shown up enough as it should be, but 99 is the best place where I think you should have it. Turn everything on here for the interferences and kickers and stuff, and then illegal blocking in the back and roughing the passer, just don't even touch those. You put those up one and you're going to see way too many of those calls. But yeah, that's it. That's going to do it for the official RFL sliders, man. I'm going to give a big shout out to everyone that was here watching. I know you guys are going to put these to use. Don't have too long to use them since Madden 20 is right around the corner. But appreciate you guys coming through, man. Make sure that you guys subscribe, hit that like button, and check us out at relocationfootballleague.com, man. We got some great stuff here in the RFL. It's playoff time right now. Starts up this Saturday. Make sure you come through to watch those games. Going to be some huge games, man. Once again, appreciate you guys coming through. It's your boy Smitty, RFL commissioner and play-by-play commentator. And I will see you guys next time. Peace.
12 better not put me over. Championship going dumb.